we started destroying our housing area today.
She seems so happy.
I suffer every time there's destruction. I can't hide it.
Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm MP. We love the ocean, so we decided to make it our home by buying a massive wooden schooner, which is unfortunately sinking.
A lot of people believe our boat is doomed, but we refuse to settle on that thought, and we are willing to do whatever it takes to bring it back to its former glory.
Join us on this refurbishing journey and wish us luck.
Here we're putting the first shutter plank in, which is the plank under the shear plank in this case, and it's actually slightly thicker than the regular planks, but also slightly thinner than the shear plank. How this is going to work, as you might know, in the rest of the planks we've got some nails as well as a screw holding the plank into the frames. What this plank is going to have, it's going to have same as these screws, one yes, one no, one yes, one no on the frame. It's going to have a threaded bar going all the way through the plank, through the frame, with a washer and nut on each end. So it's going to be held on through the frame. So that's what Seka and Nezo are doing right now. They're actually drilling the holes that go through to the other side. If you have a look over here, you've got Nico and Elio actually still drilling the holes for the nails. And Clayton and William on top are actually putting in one of the last, most forward beams that will be just underneath the anchor winch, which is also important because the anchor winch takes tremendous stress, and they're actually putting the beam that the anchor winch is going to mainly or largely support on. So if this plank, the shutter plank, is difficult to get in, you're doing it right, because it's really has to squeeze on both sides. So they're having to hammer it, do whatever they can. As you can see, there's still some sticking out, but it's really, the more they hammer it in, the more the boat squeezes together. So this plank is in, and this actually already gives us a good idea of what a closed hull looks like. Very nice, and I can't wait for the rest of the boat to be like this. Over up there, Clayton is busy drilling a hole through the beams to the frames, which are going to be held together. So this one is actually in completely already. We're going to let it dry a little bit because it's still slightly out. We're going to let it dry a bit because then it shrinks a tiny bit, and we could hammer it in a bit closer towards the frames. This has been measured by Elio, Nico and Nezo, and they're busy having a look at which board to choose from the pile to use as this plank.
Então vamos virar assim, ó. Virar assim. Assim. Buraco preto.
Memorio deve ser uma palavra de amor, uma palavra na go, paladar. Memorio deve ser alguma coisa de lá, o céu, o sol, o mar de Oxalá. Epa, epa, Morio, Morio. Epa, epa, Morio, Morio. Quindolele, aue, capuça. Quindolele, é o sangue real. Eu sou filho, eu sou neto de Aruanda. Quindolele, aue, capuça. Capuça de onde veio? Eu vim de Ocolaê. Maculele, de onde é que veio? Eu vim de Ocolaê. O atabaque, de onde veio? Eu vim de Ocolaê. O agogô, de onde é que veio? Eu vim de Ocolaê. Ei, ei, ô. Ei, ei, a. Ei, ei, ô. Ei, ei, a.
Now we can decide where the hatch is going to be. That's going to be the entrance to this forward storage room and the anchor locker. So that's what Clayton is busy measuring now, because these two vertical beam, lengthwise beams are going to go in between two frames, and that's going to decide where the entrance of the hatch is going to be, so we can start building the hatch around it. Also, at the same time of this, you might see the next plank coming in the background there. It's going to be the next one that's going to follow up this one, which is going to go along the hole.
Dá na mão.
This was installed. That's the last thing I saw that was installed. So what's happened since? Of course, the second one is there now. So these are both there. And the next thing is the boat has started to be broken down already again. So this has all been removed. Also the wall, well, it wasn't even a wall, it's just a piece of thin planks dividing this storage area to the forward cabin have been removed. So this is the first time that these two have been connected, and that is crazy. So far it's being held up by a plank, little plank here, but also this one here that's going from the, well, which actually represents a fake deck. So how cool is that? The reason why this is being done now, even though we're not working on that part of the boat yet, is this beam needs to be replaced. As you can see, it's been temporarily fixed, but in order for that to be replaced, this has to be removed. So that's what's happening now. So the next big beam here is ready to cut. However, as so many beams now are being cut, it's really wearing out the saw. So you might see there isn't one here now. So let's head over to here. Where's that guy's busy cutting it right now? So at the same time as the saw being sharpened, this next plank is being cut. It's going to be a 6 centimeter one, which can act as a shutter plank under the shear plank on the port side. So Zeka sounds like he's actually finished cutting it. Now all that has to be done, it has to be put back on the wheel, and then we can start cutting.
Mais cedo hoje, tu vai embora 7 horas. Pé. Aí, peraí. Isso aqui não, pelo pode ligar aí, bem, pra mim, por favor.
Over here, they're busy finishing putting the bars through the plank out to the other side of the frame. Here they are. So this gets measured 14 centimeters, and a washer and a nut gets put on each end with some estopper, which is this, to make sure water doesn't come through. And then they make sure this second plank down stays nice and firm onto the frames.
Mais um pouquinho, rapaz. Aí, ó, assim, ó. Ah, muito bem, vai mais qual? Uma sub-zero, bem. E sub-zero. Tá legal aí? Aí. Tá, agora deixa sair de baixo, tá, rapaz? Aí, vai, calma. Um pouquinho pra trás, um pouquinho. Oi. Deixa eu levar ali, deixa eu levar pra lá. Ah, grande pra caralho? Não, tem que ir lá dentro. Tô falando pra ti, cara. Tem que ir lá pra dentro. Tomar a nossa hoje, hein? Muito bem, galera. Vai fora.
Now we have this shutter plank in place. What is very cool about it that it's not like any other plank, it's a bit thicker, because here in Brazil we call it contracintado, which would mean counter shear plank, because it's the one that's under it. It's still thicker than the normal ones, but thinner than the shear plank. And this one is in place already, which is really exciting. And the one that will come after it is being made in our workshop. And we are very close to shutting our hole, but we still need some more wood to arrive. So we have to be a bit more patient, but we know that when it arrives, our team is like really after it. So we're really excited. What's happening here is that our beams are being measured, but here are the short beams because they're the ones that just come from the hole to the housing area, so they are not very long, and the templates are being made. now all the beams are ready to be chopped in half here in the bandsaw. And I don't know if you can hear me, but Nezu is making the angle here on our shutter plank, our counter shear plank. You can see here, it has a little angle.
So what was one 10 centimeter thick board has become many kind of raw cuts of small beams. Now all that has to be done is each individual beam has to be, that's what they're doing right now, kind of planed and cut so they can actually fit nicely into the boat and be used as beams. So as you can see behind me, the long beams that go all the way across are actually already in place, which is cool. This mast support is only a temporary one. It was literally made in 2 seconds, which I thought it was good enough to almost be a permanent one, but that's temporary, just so the mast is held up properly. But what's very cool is, as you might have just seen, the first of these short starboard beams was put in place here to get measured, and right now they're there in the workshop to do the final cuts on it to make this angle there against the hull. And we've got these little thingies here made to actually hold them in place. William explained that they were to hold it in place, but somewhere here on the inside so they don't fall. But I can't really see how, but I guess soon we will. So over here we will have one beam per frame going all the way across until we can start going all the way across again. So that would be just where the engine room starts. And then also on the other side, on the port side, same thing. One small beam per frame until we reach the engine room again. So now the beam is resting on the beam shelf, and now I also know what these things are for. So they go here and they just hold the beams onto here for now until we can get all this sorted. So all these little beams have already been placed up to, like I said, this is where the engine room starts, because this is going to be the first beam, well actually this is going to be the first beam that runs all the way across to the other side, to the port side. So what's going to happen now, these are actually temporarily hold on there with just a piece of wood and some nails. So that's going to be done later, but for now holes are being drilled through each beam, through each frame, so these can be held together to be strong enough to also act as the structure of the boat, but also these are going to be holding the deck. So that's being done right now over here. There's only one more to do. Oh no, they still have to be done all the way there to the bow. So while those beams are being attached to the frames over here, we've got some more screws and some more washers which are gonna be put in the planks as well as the nails. If you see, there's some here, there's one there. Is there one? No, there will be one there. It's always one yes, one no, one yes, one no, one yes, one no, with some exceptions. So if there isn't one close to the ending of the plank, they skip two. So let me find one. So here, there's one there. There isn't one here. There isn't one here. And instead of putting one there, they have put one over there at the ending of the plank, so the plank will not come off, if anything. We're almost done with these. I mean, we've got all the holes already. There's one there, a hole here, a hole here, two here. So that's just going to keep going.
Yeah.
For wood to arrive so we can finally finish our hole, but that doesn't mean we're not working. We started destroying our housing area today.
She seems so happy.
I suffer every time there's destruction. I can't hide it. But I'm really happy that we're going to have a brand new housing area. Not so humid, not so rotten, and a lot better and nicer. So there is always a bright side.
Because they managed to remove it quite easily. It
Yeah.
came off here. Let's have a look. As you can see, it was cut vertically, but you can see horizontally everything was just rotten. So with these two cuts, it just flew off with a sledgehammer. Same here. Hold that. What's your opinion on that piece of wood?
Looks rotten to me.
Yeah, it's sad.
Chocolate cake?
It's not chocolate. It's like strawberry. It's red, purple heart again, which
So
is
yeah,
a shame.
mainly there, the galley area, they could just hammer the walls out. And Ben was telling me, can you imagine them managing to hammer our hull out? Of course not, because that's a strong wood, and the same thing will happen now with our housing.
So as you can see, the lowest plank is still remaining. Everything above it has been removed. This lowest plank is an 8 centimeter thick plank, which is going to be replaced first. But we've realized that we can actually remove it in one piece. So now we've actually built some support onto the beams, and also holding the roofing area up. So once all these beams have been made loose from the lowest plank, we can now just move it in one piece and start making templates based on the plank when it's down below. Opa!
So we pretty much don't have a house anymore. That's what happened so far. Now we have to go do some other stuff about the engine, and we are very curious to see how it will be when we are back.
So we'd also like to thank every single one of you who has supported us by joining us on Patreon. So thank you so much, Drew
Thank you, Craig.
and Artie.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you so much, Susan.
And also thank you so much for helping us out on PayPal, Byron,
Webfront Design.
Jeff.
And also, happy birthday, Orla.
Happy
We're
bir-
wishing you all the best.
Happy birthday, and see you guys next week.